What a person consumes, can it create a negative effect on mental health? Could starch foods break down and become cyanide in the body and reduce cognitive function? Does sugar break down to glucose and inhibits function of the hypothalamus? Are chemical hair products such as relaxers they have the ability to reduce cognitive function? Does the cranium and the brain absorb such chemicals? Let us look at the black brain today and go in detail. Its function. The hippocampus diet is very important for our mental health. Some experiments on animals proved that manipulating diet had a direct impact on the part of the brain called the hippocampus, and also all other parts there for the pineal gland, the thalamus, the pituitary, the hypothalamus, the amygdala, and the mammalian body. All fluids are impacted and negatively affected by the food that we eat. But animals are not foolproof or clear proof of this thing. There should be a primary ideal for a healthy brain for an African. The brain is like a computer. It contains the software of knowing. It can be attacked by viruses, and the viruses in our sense would be thoughts or demons. Your only guard, as we have already seen, as you shall see, is man know thyself. The human brain is one of the most important organs that we have. We can show you here the brain and various parts that the brain operates and controls. This is the control room. Strange stories, amazing facts, stories that are bizarre, unusual, odd, and astonishing. So this is an old book that I have in my library. So it goes on to describe the number of factors concerning the brain. It's saying the world's most complex computer is composed of about 1.5 kilograms of gray and white matter, shaped rather like an oversized shelled walnut. So what we learn from this example is that walnuts or any other fruits that are similar to any part of our body are very good for us to consume. Therefore, the brain consists of a number of parts and functions, and it has been proved by research and experimentation that it has got hemispheres, soft hemispheres. The brain's most obvious external features are two soft hemispheres, cerebrum. These hemispheres are mirror images of each other, with the right hemisphere controlling movement and sensation on the left of the body and vice versa. So if you are left-handed, it means your right side controls you. If you are right-handed, it means your left side of the brain controls you. Other things about the brain, for instance, it goes on to tell us that each working part is a nerve cell known as a neuron. The primary unit of the brain has still unplumbed abilities, so minute that hundreds of them could fit on the head of a pin. Neurons both conduct electrical impulses and generative power to send directions racing along the nervous system. These impulses move from one nerve fiber to another, dispatching messages and information in the brain. It also goes to say the massive memory section in the cerebral cortex is believed to contain enough potential connections to receive 10 new items of information every second of your life. So you can never get information overload as long as you know how to file it in your short-term and long-term memory properly. Each day makes 100 times more connections than the world's telephone systems. That was then at that time when all the things were still built on the wire system, but still it signifies the power and the powerful nature of the brain. At the same time, we now want to go to the black brain, the African brain, the African mind. We are going to use this book, Ancient Egyptian Medicine, by Dr. John F. Nunu. It's a book that you can get from Amazon, and you can study that this book, but you have to study it knowing that everything that he writes is involving or involves the medicine that was crafted and founded by Africans in ancient Egypt. Although he wants to hide here and there, he's biased. as other scholars are. Nevertheless, topic of healers, because we must start with the healers first. So it says most people with pain or illness or injury will turn to another for help. In any society, however simple its organization, some will inevitably emerge as possessing or appearing to possess superior healing skills. So that is clear, that is straightforward, that in ancient Egypt, our ancestors had special healers. What was their name? What were they called? What did they discover? What did they teach? What can we learn from them? We know that they used the hieroglyphics, and this is the hieroglyphics that describe these doctors or these healers. It says here, there is ample evidence that the Egyptian word SWNW or SINW should be translated as physician or doctor, meaning one who practice conventional medicine as defined. What we want to do is to give you another word, a band word for SWNW. It is Sanusi or Nusa or Sinusa. That's actually its word. That's the meaning in modern Bantu. So this is S, this is Nu, this is the N, and also this is N. Sanusi, this is W. This is Sanusi, and this could be W or U. Sanuswa. That's the actual code, that name that we can use to describe them. They use Gona. You see this one, a determinative is Gona, which is one of the tools they use. So there are various other items that appear there to show what they use to do. So he goes on here to try to explain and say the hieroglyphic writing of SWNW is shown in figure 6.1, which is this one. And he goes to say the word is conventionally pronounced in Britain as Sinu. John Cree, 1958, cited the full scriptural plea of the word I have already given. I am the descendant of the ancient Egyptian. Therefore, I've told you what it means, and that's what it means. Those are the roots. We have to play with that root. So what did our ancestors discover? Our ancestors in ancient Egypt formulated the concepts of anatomy, physiology, and pathology. These are still being used today in medicine. No matter where you go, this was formulated by our ancestors. Afrikaners, quoting the lost works of an Egyptian historian Manetho, wrote about the third pharaoh of the first dynasty, Athotis or Jerry or Jera. His or Menes or Manuse, son for 57 years. He built the palace at Memphis, and his anatomical works are extant, for he was a physician. So well before Imhotep, there were already other physicians that were already performing wonders. Eusebius, quoting the same source, wrote, Athotis, his son, ruled for 27 years. He built palace at Memphis. He practiced medicine and he wrote anatomical or books. What did he write that is so critical? Here, again, our ancestors were the first and the only ones in ancient times to know and to label the human parts. Although this scholar says they didn't label inside and so forth, but they knew. They were brilliant, they were geniuses. They were beyond any measure of doubt that they knew their stuff. Countries sent people to Egypt, to Africa to study and to learn. No ways about doubting that. So they were able to label various parts, external parts, the mouth, the eye. No other diagram can you find on earth which I am showing you here. They went on further. They were able to label all these parts, the lungs, and also to label all these spleen, the gallbladder, the mouth of the big, large intestine, the rectum, and they went even further to label anatomical parts, and they were able to know the functions of these parts. It is quite clear that we are dealing with brilliant people. Above all and everything else, they dealt with mental health and issues of the brain. So they were able to explain ubukopo, ingqondo, fungwa, urozi, the skull or geneti, Lozi, Levites, and the Levites are the only people in the Bible, in the Torah, that carry Egyptian names. So the Levites were Egyptians. There is no two ways about that. And the book that we are dealing with was translated from ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics anyway. So he goes on to say, there is further evidence that the bones of the vault of the skull were recognized as separate entities. It says, as for perforating the tepau, which is of the skull, the top of the skull, it is what is between the shell and shell paquit or paquit of the skull. The tepau are of leather or hide. That's the skin, the skin that we have, that forms the perforations that are in the skull. So here I am showing you all the labels that our ancestors were able to show and to discover. The shell of the skull, the paquit, the socket of the eyes, the chambers of the nose, the ibi, the mustache, the teeth, the chin, the mandible, the holders of the ear. They were able to do that. Above all, they were also able to understand the various fluids and liquids that move within the body. They call them metu. This is the term that we know as mate in general. And also moto for nerves, the nervous system. And also muto for the digestive system. And also matusi for the elimination of what we have eaten and the cleaning and the cleansing of our tummy. And so we continue to show that the issues of mental health involved demons as causes of disease. The medical papyri spells, the medical papyri makes specific mention of malign influences which enter the body from the outside. The Ebers Papyrus H54F is quite specific as to the side of the body where these demons enter through. And these demons enter through the breath of life enters into the right ear and the breath of death enters into the left ear. He goes on to describe all these as the information that came from Jahuti and also the amulets that they used to have, and we should also have the amulets to protect us, to deliver us, protect us. And this is the information that our ancestors had. There were various incantations that they had to do to stop and also to protect themselves. Incantations as therapy. There is great variation in the format of incantations used for healing. And the simplest is addressed directly to the disease or the disease demon itself. When you feel that you are challenged by a spiritual force, you have to address that spiritual force and tell it to vanish yourself. That's the teaching. You also, if you have got a disease or a headache, you have to talk to that headache and tell it to vanish. This is what our ancestors teach. Here is an incantation against Wekedu, a disease. I trample Busiris. I throw down Mendes. Mendes is a demon or a god, demon, god or devil or a negative thought. I ascend to the sky to see what is done therein. Nothing will be done in Abydos until the driving out of the evil influence of a god, a goddess, or male Wekedu, female Wekedut. Wedutu, Wekedutu. Dutu means dark, means force. And the influence of all evil forces, I will say, I will not repeat, perish as you may come into being. Perish or vanish. Sukarapa, Buddha, get out of my life. Get out, you headache. That's incantations. Buddha mantiri wamsoro no tema. Poram soro. That's what our ancestors taught. So there are many other benefits if you read this book, especially when you understand that you are dealing with one of the geniuses, Imutepo. Yeah, right? He was a vizier, deputy prime minister to Pharaoh Joseph. And also we have here Imutepo and Amenhotep, son of Hapu, who is on the right there, were both deified long after their deaths and venerated as healers. This is outside the rear east wall of the Ptah temple at Karnak, and probably it's still try and want to modify it. We have already shown that our ancestors knew the nervous system. There is evidence that they knew the nervous system, and the brain is the interpreter of comprehension. As our ancestors said, the 8 receipt papyrus gives valuable insights into the spinal cord in transmission of information from the brain to the lower part of the body. Case 31 says, is concerned with a dislocation of the neck and describes how you find him not knowing his 2 arms and his 2 legs. It continues, his phallus is erect and urine drips from his member. So he can't control it. Also, they knew about the circulatory system. We have dealt with the heart, that the heart is not the pump. They knew that also. And the respiratory system, which is the air, which they know. As for the breath, which enters into the nose, it enters in the heart, and the lungs, it is they which give to the entire body. So our ancestors knew, they knew also other systems. From medical papyrus, clear account of the physiological systems that they knew, which covered a lot of others. They knew about soft and hard tissues. They knew about the morbid status of swelling, how to heal, all that. They were brilliant. The Africans that wrote the papyrus, that formulated this information, were brilliant. They were geniuses beyond any measure. We want to show hieroglyphic about that provide us with several hundred miniature portraits of men and women and plants. That is the human placenta, right? It's a circle with lines across it. That is the pustule or gland with fluid issuing, right? That is the gland systems that we have. And that is the vomiting or spittle, the human lips with the fluids issuing. That's the heart. That's the lung and the trachea. This is important because it also gives us the sign of Simaidawi, right? Of knowledge and wisdom and intelligence, because the lungs pump the blood. This is the vertebrae, right? With the lines across, or jedi, raising the jedi. And this is the backbone with the spinal cord issuing from it. That's the symbols. And this is the girdle knot or the discs in the spinal cord. And these are the ribs separate from the discs with a little sign at the bottom. And this is the jaw, lower jaw of an ox. And this is also the bicornuate uterus of a heifer. And also this is the a piece of flesh, as well as the well full of water. So our ancestors understood a lot of these things. They were also capable of healing and of bringing health to millions of people that suffered. How did they do that? Because they knew the routes of administration of drugs. There were 5 main routes of administration of drugs: oral, rectal, vaginal, external application, and fumigation. The commonest was the oral route, and typically instructions were as follows: to be eaten wenyama by a man of 84 dons, Ebers 199. To be drunk, drugs might also be given as suppositories or enema, clysters into the rectum. Herodotus 276 commented on this practice in relation to their belief that all diseases came from their food. The instructions may relate to liquid or solid foods. Poured wadihwa instead of wadirwa into the anus pehwei, and also placed redu on the anus for 4 days. Both wadirwa and ready are very well attested words widely used outside the medical papyri. In other cases, it is specific instructions to prepare the drug. So this is how we can live and how we can study, by sifting and going back to what our ancient ancestors understood and knew. And let us understand that mental health, physical illnesses, and other issues were dealt with our ancestors. We can study from them, and we can understand from ancient African medicine. So how do you know thyself? The ancient Egyptians wrote about many complications of the mental health issues. You can find that in the Ibash papyrus, the reign of Amenhotep, and many other papyri on these stories. The solution is KaKhatiBaAbKhabitKhuSahuSekhemRenyu. It is knowing the 9 level souls that dwells within us. The kingdom of heaven is within you, and whosoever shall know himself shall find it. This is an ancient African proverb, now popularized by many others. On the phrase know thyself, the question is who or what is the self? That which must be known, which is contained in this phrase. The Sphinx has the answer. It is to know that you are an African, that you have got a feminine energy as well as a masculine energy, that you are a KaKhatiBaAbKhabitKhuSahuSekhemRenyu. You are a 9-souled individual. You are here on a journey. Some shocking aspects of modern medicine involves the extraction of human DNA from aborted fetal tissues, and this becomes a vaccine. Most people find it hard to believe that human DNA is contained in up to 23 different vaccines, due to the fact that a lot of the viruses are grown on aborted fetal tissue. As a result of the viruses being grown on aborted fetal tissue, it is nearly impossible to separate the residue from the fetuses completely from the vaccines. You can find this And more information on this from thelibertybeacon.com. Human DNA from aborted fetuses in vaccines, published February 7, 2013. Is this the reason why we have such autoimmune disease? This is leading to our demise in mental power. Ancient Africans in Egypt seem to be the most forward-thinking in their treatment of mental illnesses. They recommended various sports and activities, and for those that were afflicted with these activities, such as concerts, dances, and choreographing like this, and painting, in order to relieve symptoms and achieve some sense of normalcy, was recommended. So you should engage in this. In conclusion, therefore, yes, a happy, healthy, long, mental, enriched life is ours. But we must know thyself first. Who are you? You are a pure, original son and daughter of the wisest ever people to walk on this planet, on this earth. Ancient Africans who founded Kamiti and all other civilizations. Siyabonga, tatenda, twalumba. This is priest teacher Rabbi L.M. Dumizulu of Kamiti Hebrew Ethics. Subscribe to our channel, visit us on this website, and share with us or anything by way of this contact, lmdumizulu@gmail.com. This is our time to walk with God again. Thank you. Goodbye.